Hi everybody! This week's video is going to be a little bit different from the norm. I typically like to encourage language learners because there are a lot of discouraged ones out there and feeling like they can't progress or anything, and I want to pass on the belief that anybody can learn a language because that is what I truly believe. However, I do think an integral part of your language learning is through self-awareness, because you're able to identify problems, get to the root of them, and then make positive changes that can result in a more positive or successful outcome, depending on what success even means to you. And when we look inside, when we self-reflect, we aren't always going to like what we see. And one of those things might be victim mentality, which is the topic of this week's video. Victim mentality on the surface is identifying as a victim. It's this chain reaction caused by, well, it's the result of early life conditioning and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I'm not going to go in depth with that because I'm not a professional. I don't want to touch that. I just want to give a broad idea of what victim mentality is and how that can play into language learning, specifically your language journey. Now, victim mentality has you believe that you are the victim of your circumstances and of other people, causing you to blame those circumstances or other people and not take responsibility for things that are in your control. You feel powerless and you feel so hopeless, and like the worst case scenario is going to happen and that you're destined for something negative to happen, to the point where you decide that there is no point in trying any solutions anymore. And because you're not open to new solutions and to try to make things better and change, you end up hurting yourself, self-sabotaging, which will be a future video topic. Now, this can be characterized, this victim mentality, can be characterized by feelings of hopelessness, negative emotions, always expecting the worst, self-pity, low confidence, low self-esteem, and feeling resentful toward people who are where you want to be, instead of feeling inspired and motivated by them. Now, if you're only experiencing one of these things, don't overthink it and worry and say, oh no, I have a victim mentality because I've been feeling hopeless for a day or two. We go through rough patches, but if this has been something you've been experiencing for a long time, then you'll want to hear the rest of this video. I have seen people leave comments that really, I could tell, identify with some of these things, and I just wanted to share this because I thought it could be helpful. It looks like blaming other people or your circumstances for not being able to progress, and always expecting the worst thing to happen, which I mentioned before. Now, these people who have this victim mentality, they want validation. They want sympathy from others. And there is nothing wrong with wanting validation from others, especially when you're feeling discouraged and you're feeling like everything is your fault. Talking to other people can be very helpful. Community is so beneficial in language learning. However, it's the way that they respond to the people that they're trying to get this sympathy from. It's more than just seeking out validation and hearing things like, I hear you, I understand what you're going through, and things are going to get better. It's not really listening to those people, it's just getting their attention, having them say all these nice things to you, but then you don't do anything when they suggest ways to improve or change your situation. You just push those things to the side and continue as you are, and this leaves you stuck. And when you're stuck, you can't move forward in your language journey, and you're stuck because of yourself. Now, a lot of the time, this is the result of, I would say, in language learning specifically, when you give people this imaginary control over things that aren't within their control, and you think that those things have power over your circumstances, when in reality, you actually do, and you have to take responsibility and ownership for those things. Or it can look like not taking responsibility and ownership of the things that actually are within your control, mixing the two up, who has control over what. And the good news is that you don't have to stay stuck there. If you really identify with this and you're feeling like, you know, I think this might be me, I might be in this situation, and things aren't feeling good, I'm not just going to leave you there to feel terrible. I do have some tips to help you get started. First steps that you can take in order to have a healthier mindset, to cultivate, develop that healthier mindset when it comes to language learning. The first thing is to pay attention to the words that you are using, both with yourself and with others. The thoughts that you have about yourself as a language learner. What kinds of things are you saying? Are they mostly positive? Are they mostly negative? The second step is to evaluate what is within your control. Look at your situation, the circumstance that you think is dictating your language journey. It can be saying things like, I have a bad teacher. Look at that situation. Is it that your teacher is not showing up to class and not doing their part? Well, then maybe they are a bad teacher because they're not doing their part that they're in control of, which is showing up and teaching the class. However, if they are teaching the class and maybe it's not in a style suited to your learning style or best suited to that style, then perhaps there's something else that you can do outside of that class. Maybe you have no choice but to take that class. That's the only teacher that offers it. It's a required class. But if you really want to learn this language, ask yourself what you can do outside of that class to further your learning without the help of that teacher. Because there are things that you can do studying on your own, or maybe finding other options for classes, whether they're online or somewhere else. Another example would be saying that you have a bad memory versus maybe you need to get more sleep. Maybe you're not eating the right things and somehow that is impeding your concentration. Maybe you have a lot going on in your life right now and that's your main focus, and because of that, it's harder to focus on studying, which makes you think you have a bad memory because you can't recall words so well. But that's not the issue. It's not your memory. But maybe you are experiencing issues with your memory, and there are things that you can do to help build up your memory a little bit better. It's important to evaluate situations individually and see if you do have any control in any of them. If you don't, then you have to accept that as it is. And if there is something that you could have control with or control over, then you can make changes and have a more positive outcome. The next step is to be kind to yourself. As I mentioned before, it's important to pay attention to the words that you're using about yourself as a language learner to yourself and to other people when talking about yourself. Most of the time, because victim mentality is characterized by low self-esteem, self-pity, negative emotions, resentfulness, such negativity, chances are you're not being very kind or patient or compassionate with yourself, or even gentle. You're not being any of those things with yourself, and it's important to be kind to yourself because you're stuck with yourself. You are your language learning partner for life. You may have language exchange partners and teachers that come and go, but you are the language learner and you are stuck with yourself. So it is very important to be kind to yourself. It's also important to build up confidence. Because people with victim mentality have low confidence, then that's something that can be worked on in order to progress. However, just like you're not born with a victim mentality, it's something that's developed, so is confidence. And even though it's not easy, it can be done. You just have to be willing to put in the effort and the work that's required. I did make videos on confidence and being kind to yourself, and I will link those and any other resources that may be helpful within this video and in the description box so that you can reference them and take your first steps to healing. The final piece of advice that I have for you today is to be open to the feedback of others. Because you're expecting sympathy from other people or some sort of validation, it's important to be open to what they have to say, even if you don't like it. Now, it's important, too, that this is a person that you can trust, a safe person, somebody who will be gentle with you and who truly has your best interest in mind as a friend, a language partner, a language learner. Don't just go to anybody who might make things even worse. It's very important to have that discernment when opening yourself up to other people about the issues that you're facing. However, it's important to open yourself up to their feedback or their comments about ways that you can improve or things that you can change. and you might not always like what they're going to say, what you hear. And I did make a video on opening yourself up to that a little bit more, which I will also link within the description box and in this video. I hope that this helps. I really feel bad about talking about this in the first place because I don't like to make people feel bad, but growth requires a certain level of discomfort, and this would be a good type of discomfort for you. If you can identify this with this, then you already know that you can start making a change because you're able to identify what the problem is. Now you just have to take the steps necessary, and it's hard work, but it can absolutely be done. You don't have to be stuck forever. You can progress in your language journey, and you can find your definition of success in language learning. Alright, that's it for this week. I hope that this helped. Please share it with anybody with discernment. Please share it with anybody who could use a bit of this advice in their own language journey if they're feeling stuck. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye!